Okay, so let's start with chapter 18. As for the schedule, we are right on time, so if you have questions about this chapter, let's make sure we all understand what's happening here. Another announcement that I wanted to make on your Blackboard, if you go into course documents, there is a new set of slides. It has all of the slides that I'm showing here. So it has the full version of slides, and that includes all the problems that we go over there. Many of them just have answers and not the text itself, but you can find that in the book, okay? All right, so make sure if you have any homework problems, questions and such, come. I'm gonna leave a Monday on. So Monday hours are still there because a couple students asked to keep it. So Monday, if you have, I can be here as early as 9 o'clock. If you have questions, come on Monday. Don't come on Tuesday at 12 p.m. Okay? All right, so let's start. Chapter 18 is going to be on activity-based costing, mainly, and then we'll discuss some other cost management tools. Okay? So what are we going to do in this chapter? We'll develop activity-based costing, which is a ABC system. Okay? We'll use activity-based management, that's the abbreviation ABM, and it's mainly to achieve your target costs. Okay? What it means, we'll talk in a little bit. Then, do you remember this, on the first quiz you had this just-in-time? Okay? So we'll describe how this just-in-time production work, and we'll learn how to write down the transactions. Okay? And then we'll use the 4 types of quality costing to make our decisions. So that's it. Only 4 parts for the chapter. Okay. So the first learning objective is how to develop activity-based costs. Again, it's your ABC. Okay? Okay, so the reason why we want to introduce another type of costing is because we want it to be more accurate than just estimating the cost. Okay? So we want to attach those costs to products, and we'll call it activity-based costing. Okay? So just from the name of it, so our costing is going to be based on a certain activity, right, within that process. Okay, so let's discuss how do we develop this ABC system and try to compare it to other systems and see what is the benefit and why many companies, especially when they, for the bigger companies, they would likely use ABC. Okay. So ABC costing allows us to define the way indirect costs are allocated to the production. Okay. So indirect costs, what are indirect costs for us? Those are utilities, salaries of supervisors, some plant depreciation and such. We're not talking about them right now. We're just talking about those costs that are very significant for the plant, okay? And we'll need to allocate them somehow. Okay, so let's look. So what we have here, we have activity-based costing that will divide our production into certain activities, okay? So each process is going to be subdivided. And for each one of those activities, we will have the means to assign a cost, okay? Okay, so we assign cost to product based on how much product was used within that process. That's the main thing for you to understand, how much was used within that particular activity. Now we will also need to understand what are those cost drivers. We've already seen in past chapters this cost driver, right? So to define it, our cost driver is an activity that drives the cost to being accumulated, okay? Just as you would derive this definition from the term itself, cost driver. Whatever that activity that drives the cost, okay? Okay, so like an example, a very clear example is for your shipping, it's a number of pounds. Okay, so what drives the cost when you're shipping a box through USPS? The weight of it, right? Unless it's a flat rate, but let's just say the weight of it. So if you're transporting a pillow versus a refrigerator, the cost is going to be different. Yeah? Okay, and like I said, many companies are going to use this ABC because it's much better precision. Okay? All right, so let's look at the system. So what do we have here? We have the manufacturing overhead, right? Direct labor costs, and then some products. So let's see. This is a very, very traditional system. We're just talking about the traditional one right now. So we have some manufacturing overhead. We add our direct labor cost to it, right? We use it as a cost. We use the cost allocation base, and then we have some products, and whatever they are, it does not matter. We accumulate all of the costs all together. We just have this plant-wide manufacturing overhead allocation rate. We don't have it divided into activities. Okay, so as an example, do you remember how last chapter we didn't have any activities? We just had this one rate that we used, right? Do you remember how last class we did that? So right now it's going to be a little bit different picture. So let's look at it. Okay. So this is your ABC system. Now let's look again. The same. Do you see here we had some DVD production, right? So right now we have a much more complex as it looks like. But in fact, for your accounting, it's going to be much easier to track the cost. So, and most importantly, it's a precise traction of cost. All right, so what do we have here? We have a manufacturing overhead, right? Right here. And then we have some activities. So we have a setup, we have DVD burning, and then we have case assembly, right? So because I have different activities, I'm going to have different cost drivers. What is the cost driver? It's an activity that drives my costs, right? So let's look through setup. I have a certain number of batches, right? Your setup. Okay, so how is it different? Okay, somewhat clear, but how is it different? Let's look at all activities. Then I have DVD burning, and it's a number of machine hours. So do you see how for setup it's a number of batches, but for DVD burning it's a number of machine hours, because when I'm burning a DVD, I want to see what is the cost that I incur while that machine is working and burning those DVDs. Yeah, it's a different cost driver. Okay, so that's why I'm going to be using my separate allocation rate for each activity. Yes.
So you would use the one where the greatest difference is to allocate the cost?
The greatest you are saying, why did I divide into setup and DVD burning, and why not into smaller processes?
So let's say between the Excel DVD and the specialty DVD, the number of batches was pretty much, regardless of which one, was pretty much the same. The number of machine hours was pretty much the same, but let's say you need more inserts for the specialty versus the Excel, so then you use the number of inserts as the activity-based cost.
You're asking about these arrows, right? Somewhat. Okay? Well, the products do not matter right now. What we want to understand is that the process of making a DVD has certain steps, right? So those steps are my activities. How small am I going to go? It's really up to me, okay? And up to how I produce that product, okay? What you need to understand is that it's not based on the Excel versus a learning DVD. It's based on what are you doing to produce a DVD, okay? So your Excel DVD is going to have all of those components. Yes, you're right, maybe different proportions, right? But it's still going to have all of those components, okay? And the same is for your specialty DVD. So how I'm going to allocate that cost, I'm going to know, if I were to talk about what time I spent on producing that Excel versus learning DVD as a developer and maybe as an educator, that's a different cost. Right now we're just going through the process of making a DVD, okay? So that is negligible. What kind of DVD is quite negligible right now? Do you understand why? Yeah, because I'm just producing a DVD. That's all that matters. What is the content of that DVD and how much time I spent to producing the content is a different story. Okay?
But if your number of hours to produce it was your cost driver, then I think that would be relevant.
It will be relevant. You're right. It will be relevant. It's just for right now, all I'm looking at is how I'm making the DVD. Just the physical process of making a DVD. Okay? The software part of it is a different story. It is included in the cost as well. You're right. But I will need to make another slide for that. Okay? So all you need to understand is what is the activity that acquired that cost, okay? What is the activity? So if that was me contracting an educator and me contracting a software developer, right? Yeah, those hours are going to be different. To just put another version of Excel slap on the DVD or to have an educational program on that DVD, it's a different cost, okay? We're just talking about the physical process of making the DVD, okay? Okay, so just, you were right. You pointed out that each of these products are going to have different components from number of different costs from number of batches, number of machine hours, and inserts. Okay? So okay, so let's look at the developing of an activity-based costing system. So what do we have here? We have certain steps that we kind of just described. So let's look at these steps of producing that DVD. So first we want to identify what is an activity that I'm going to be basing my costs on. And it's usually made plant-wide, okay? So your accountants and your managements are going to sit down and say, this is our process, and this is where it's important for us to understand what are the costs we're accumulating here, okay? So that's going to be step one. We want to identify each activity and estimate its total indirect costs. Okay? Okay. So for example, we had on the previous one, right? What is your activity? That's a case assembly right here, the third one, okay? This. So let's look at that. So what do? They want to estimate the indirect cost per year. Okay, that's an estimation. What does it mean? It means we're trying to predict how much is it going to cost us for that particular activity to assemble cases. Okay? So they say, we think it's going to be $10,000 and it's based maybe on prior numbers, on the volume that we're expecting, right? All of that discussion that we had last class. So all of the different components are going to help us to estimate. Now your second step is going to be you will identify the cost driver. So how I'm going to identify the cost driver? I'm going to try to see what is driving the cost within that activity. So for my cost driver for case assembly, it's going to be number of inserts. Okay? So I'm going to say that by a number of inserts used, I will be able to estimate my costs. Okay, that's driving my costs. Why? Because one insert goes into one DVD. It's helping me to identify the costs. Okay? So the second part of your second step is going to be you will estimate the total quantity, okay, of each driver allocation base. So I said my driver allocation base is an insert, okay? So knowing how much I'm expected to produce this year, I can say, okay, I estimate the total number 100,000. Okay, maybe I've grown my business and I know that I've grown it by, I don't know, 150%. I was making this much last year. I'm expecting to be this year. Okay? All right. So my third step, that's where your calculations are going to take place. You want to compute the cost allocation rate for each of your activities. So think about it. Don't try to just memorize the formula. Just think about it. So how can I say what is my cost allocation rate? What is it? It's the total estimated total indirect cost per year, right? The one that I did in the first step, okay? Divided by what? By a number of estimated inserts, right? So what is it for me? Number of inserts was 100,000, okay? So I'm dividing my estimated total indirect cost per year by estimated total number of inserts each year, okay? And I get the cost allocation base. In my case, what? It's 10 cents per insert. Okay, so for my activity of case assembly, I just found that my cost allocation rate is 10 cents, great, per insert. So now I need to take step 4. I already determined my cost allocation base. So for my fourth step, I want to understand, so how much of that cost I need to allocate for that activity, right? So it looks like we're getting to that activity-based costing system end, yeah? All right, so how do I allocate indirect costs to the cost object? I'm going to take my rate that I just found, cost allocation rate, and I will multiply it by actual quantity of allocation base used by the cost object. Okay, sounds crazy, but it's not. Let's try to understand what it is. So I know that my actual quantity in January was 8,000 units. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 8,000 inserts and I will multiply it by the 10 cents per insert that I just found. Okay, so all of this was my estimate. I found cost allocation rate by computing the estimates, right? But my allocated activity cost is my actual quantity of the allocation base used by the cost object. Okay, so I'm taking an actual number, multiplying it by estimates. Okay. So this is an example. So what do we have here? Let's go through this. So we have a controller that's helping us to identify all of our activities, all the manufacturing activities. Okay? Right now we're just going to talk about that setup. And then we have Foreman Oliver that estimates total setup cost for all production at this much, 600,000. Okay, so we have controller Colin helping and Foreman Oliver. So let's see. What is our second step? What do we need to do? We want to understand what is the cost driver for that activity. We're just talking about the setup, right? And then we'll estimate the total quantity. So we're saying that the allocation base for this activity needs to be our cost driver, right? And do you remember how we did that before, but let's use it here. We know that the number of batches are going to drive our costs. Okay, so they decide that it's going to be 40 batches. So what do we have so far? We estimated the total setup cost, and we estimated the number of batches. Okay, now we need to compute the allocation rate for the activity, for our setup. Now this is only for one activity, right? You may have so many. This is just for one example. So what are we going to do? We're going to take this 600,000 and we'll divide it by 40,000 by 40 batches. Okay? And that's going to give me my allocation rate. And I'm going to see, okay, it's 15,000 per batch. But that's not it, right? I'm going to do a step 4. My step 4 is based on actual number. Okay? So I know Colin said that allocate setup costs are as follows. I'm going to have 3 batches for Excel DVD, and specialty DVD is a 1 batch. So I'll respectively multiply it. And this is my total. Okay? So these are my costs for each of the activity. Okay. Was that clear? No? What is the question? Then stop and ask a question. What is confusing? Because you're not the only one. Just giving you 100%.
What would be the problem given on the exam or given? Because I see everything and I don't know what's going to be given.
Do you understand all of it?
I understand some of it.
What do you not understand?
I'm just confused. I just have to see it more. I guess.
Well, let's wait until example if you still have the question. Yeah? Okay, and then maybe homework will help you. There are 2 problems from 18. Okay, so let's look here. So just like as we discussed, we have 2 systems, right? One is traditional and the other one is an ABC. Your traditional is what we've done last class. It's very straightforward, okay? All of your costs divided by all of your, and you get some number. Now, ABC allows you to be more precise. So how is it more precise? So under traditional system, we have our specialty DVD is $20 per DVD. Okay, that's my profit, what I'm making of it, right? So what is it? They say that it's 5 times as high as $4 gross profit for the Excel DVD. So under this system, my management is going to make a decision. They're going to say, well, let's produce more specialty DVD. Why are they going to do that? Because the profit is so much higher, right? For my ABC, once I implement the ABC system, I can have a better look at what are the costs. Okay? So my Excel is $4. My specialty DVD is $20. So let's see how did they calculate this. We have a sale price for DVD, right? So let's just concentrate on Excel for right now. So my sale price is $12, okay? Now what am I going to do? Out of that sale price, I want to subtract my manufacturing cost per DVD. Okay, how do I find my manufacturing cost? It has 3 components: direct materials, direct labor, manufacturing overhead. Okay? So direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. So I know that my manufacturing cost is $8. Okay, so my gross profit per DVD is $4. How did I get $4? Sale price minus your manufacturing cost. Okay, same is true for specialty DVD. Now look at this. Right? We've just done this simple thing. Now I'm going to look at my ABC system. What's happening here? I have my setup cost, 45,000. I have my DVD burning setup, 5,000, right? I have my case assembly cost, 10,000. We just did all of it, right? And now I know that my total manufacturing overhead cost is $60,000. Now what am I going to do? I'm going to divide all of it by the number of the units produced. And what do I see? I see that my manufacturing overhead cost per DVD under ABC system is only 60 cents. Yeah? But my cost for producing specialty DVD is what? $33.70. So let's try to do an example. Just a quick note, when you see something like this, do you see this S18-3? That's actually in your book. That's out of the book. Okay? So when you're going to use those slides that I uploaded for the chapter, the problem itself is in the book. Okay? Okay, so what are we doing here? We have a day corporation that's considering to use an activity-based costing. Okay, they're considering, they want to see what's better. So we have the following information. We have activity cost and then the cost driver. Great, right? And then we have two products. So I know for my for each of the products, my direct labor hours, number of setup, number of machine hours. You just need to figure out correctly what is your cost driver here, okay? So you don't need to use all of it, not all of these items here. You need to identify correctly. So let's do this. First, you need to compute the ABC in direct manufacturing cost per unit for each product. Okay? So I'm going to give you, the reason why I'm giving you time to do this, because if I'm going to give you an answer right away, none of you are going to think. So think and try, and if you have a question, ask, because otherwise you're going to have a homework to do. Yes? Okay, so you want to read this carefully and try to understand what are they asking. They want you to compute the ABC in direct manufacturing cost per unit, right? So we just had the 4 steps. So what you want to do, you want to go back to 4 steps and do one by one. So the first one, right? I was talking about this. So the first, you want to identify each activity, okay, and estimate total indirect cost. Okay, so what is my activity? What are the activities I have? I have setup and I have machine maintenance. Okay? So step 1 is given to you. There is a cost for activity 1, for setup activity, and there is a cost for machine maintenance. And they even gave you a cost driver. Okay? So next step. So you have step 2, step 3, step 4. So you know the number of units, right? You know the cost, okay? You want to find your cost per unit for each of the products. So ABC in direct manufacturing cost per unit is what you need to find. try it. Try and then yes. You got it. Yeah, okay. I knew it. Yeah, what? What did you get for A? Yeah, not really. Huh? No, it's much bigger number. Oh, hold on. No, no, yeah. Think about it a little more. A little more. Think about it a little more. You're kind of close. So my cost for a setup is 106,000, and I have a number of setups, which is a 200. So what is 805? No. Even if you do not go anywhere, just think about it. Just tease your mind a little bit. Okay, so let's go through the... So what are we doing here? First, we just want to identify what is it asking, our cost per unit, right? So this was given to us. For setup, I know the total cost, and I know the total number of units, right? This was given to you 106, 200, right? Number of setups and a setup as activity cost. Okay? So you calculated this per setup, and the same as per machine hour. Okay, that's to start with. Now we need to calculate it for each of the products. Okay, so what are we going to do here? This is for your A, and this is for your B. So what do? I have this per setup. What am I going to do with this? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at each of these number of setups, and I'll multiply that number by a number of setups for each product. Okay? So I have, pay attention to this, that the top table is for all of your setups, all of your machine hours. So you need somehow to identify it for each of the products. Right? So what are you going to do? You'll take a total number of direct labor hours and the total number of setups, and you'll respectively use it with the top table numbers. Okay? So you'll take 106,000, divide by 200, and then multiply that rate for the number of setups product A, and then for the product B, because your product B used so much more setups than the product A. You cannot just use the same rate, right? Okay? So this is how we got the amount for setup and the machine maintenance. Okay? We're just going through the product A right now. So what am I going to do next? So I found my cost for setup. I found my cost for machine maintenance. I'm going to sum it up because I'm looking just for one product, how much cost it is, right, for that particular product. So I'll divide it by a number of units. Yes?
Should it be divided by
370, where are you? Right here?
No, on the, for A.
325?
Yeah. That's for, and 375 units, but divided by 325. I'm just confused if that's the number,
Typo. Huh? It's a typo. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a typo. Yes, this is a 375. Don't put it down at 325. Okay, so this way I'm going to find my cost per unit for that particular product. So do you see a trick here? When you have the information given to you as a cost in general for all products. You need to figure out how to play with it and get it to that particular product. So in this case, you're going to take all of your costs for one of the activities and divide it by the total number of whatever that was, direct labor hours or number of setups. Okay? And then from there, you're just using your regular ABC, and it should not be that difficult. Okay. So what is the indirect manufacturing cost to produce? We just calculated this, right? And for B, it's a much higher number. Okay. Was that clear? Okay. I'm assuming yeah. Yeah.
Why did you divide by the total?
Right here?
Yeah.
Because look at what's given to you. So the first table, right, this top portion, has all of the costs for the setup activity. All of the costs. It doesn't matter product A, product B, product Z, whatever that is, it's all the costs. And that's not quite how you want to allocate your costs, right? Your question here is to make sure that whatever goes for product A is what's assigned for product A. Right? So how can you find this out? You're going to take all of the cost, right, that's given on the top and divide by whatever is the corresponding that total for that activity. So if my setup costed me in total 106,000 and I produced 200 units, I'm going to take the total and divide by a number of units in total, right? And then I'm going to have this rate for that particular activity for 1 unit. Okay?
And then you multiply it by product A and product B.
And then I can take that rate and I can, do whatever calculations I need to do for product A and whatever I need to do for product B. Right? Okay, any other questions? Okay, so let's look at the second one. We're going to use our second learning objective is how to use activity-based management. Okay, so that we achieve those target costs. Okay, so we just figured out that ABC is precise because we can go by activity and be, very precise at assigning costs. Okay? So what is an ABM? ABM uses the ABC, right, activity-based costs, to make decisions that are going to help us to increase the profits, meet some of our customer needs, and so on and so forth. Okay? Okay, so what kind of decisions we are making when we're talking about activity-based management? First, we want to identify what is the correct pricing and product mix for our company to achieve the goals. Okay? So it has two components. First, it will provide us more accurate costs of products, and then it will determine the profitability of that product. And then also, as a very good bonus, we're going to know how can we cut the costs. Okay. So we'll make some, let's talk about that controller colon. You remember we just had that 4 steps identifying? Okay, so it's the same situation. We have Excel DVD, we have specialty DVD, and we know what is the gross profit. Okay, so let's see. Panel A, what do we have here? We have manufacturing cost per DVD and the gross profit under ABC system. Okay, so the same story. We just figured out our sale price. We know our manufacturing cost per unit, right, per DVD. And so we found our gross profit here. Okay, so what do we see here? Our manufacturing cost per specialty DVD is so high that our gross profit is negative. Yeah? But for Excel DVD, we're still doing okay. And now let's see the comparison to the traditional allocation cost. How can it hurt us when we're not allocating our costs correctly? So we did the same thing. Under traditional allocation cost, we figured out, okay, the manufacturing cost per DVD is $8. So I am still okay here. My gross profit, I'm thinking my gross profit is still $4, right? For Excel DVD, and my specialty DVD is $20. How amazing is that? Now, why the difference is so large? The problem is that how many am I producing of specialty DVD and how many of Excel DVD is not quite taken into account when I'm just talking about when I'm just using the traditional allocation of costs, right? So I may be producing a very small number of Excel DVDs and a very large number of specialty DVDs and not quite taking into account how much it costs me to produce that DVD. So when you're using your ABC system, you're literally dissecting each process in so many components that it's easy for you to track the cost. Okay. So as a manager, do you see what problem we can run into if we're just looking at the traditional allocation cost, right? So many companies are going to be using ABC. It's a much better measure. Okay. Yeah, you see? Okay. So while most companies are adopting ABC to get a better product cost for different reasons, for pricing, for product mix decisions, right? We just talked about this. Quite often, companies benefit even more when they cut costs, okay? So how am I going to reduce my costs? I'm going to use this value engineering. Value engineering is something that you want to add to your ABC costing. It's an amazing addition to this new system that you'd rather or you should implement. Okay, so what does it mean? For you, it means that you're going to reevaluate activities to reduce all your costs. Your value engineering is going to require all your cross-functional teams. What does it mean? It's going to require the participation of all your cross-functional teams. Your marketers, your engineers, your accountants. So what is their role? Your marketers are going to identify all of your customer needs so that you, like we said in the very beginning, so that you follow them. Now your engineers are going to design efficient products, more efficient products. And your accountants will estimate the costs, right, using that ABC system. Okay. So an example is one of the examples is when you are setting your sale price based on target prices. Now for American automaker versus Japanese automaker, numbers are very different. Okay, so you're going to set your selling price even if you are under the same company based on your target price. Okay, whatever it costs to produce that. You remember I talked to you in the very beginning about producing Toyota in Ohio or whatever that was, right? And in Japan, the costs are different, the target prices are going to be different, it's all different, even though it might be one company. We want to target what customers are willing to pay. Okay, so let's look. We have this target pricing versus cost-based pricing. So my target pricing is when I want to achieve that price that's beneficial to me, profitable for me. Okay? My cost-based pricing is whatever it costed me, and then I have some markup. Okay, so let's see. In my accounting, what is my cost-based? It's my full cost. And remember, I want to estimate my cost correctly, because this is where you're going to lose money. Okay, if you're not using your ABC and your full cost is off, then you're going to add the desired profit to this and then get some sales price that is irrelevant. So you want to get your full cost correctly, add desired profit, and then this is your sales price. So how is it different from the target-based? I'm going to have some target-based price in mind. Yeah? Yes?
One can be set by a leader in the industry, and one is set by a follower.
Yeah? Yeah? That's an interesting example. So your target base is going to be your target price. You'll subtract your desired profit, and that's how your target cost is estimated. Yes?
Why would you use target pricing?
Well, look at this, right? So I have, it's a comparison of two, okay? It's not one is versus another. There's one that can be implemented and the second one. So when I have a target, do you see how my formulas are upside down when I'm talking about the target-based, right? I first take the price, then I take the profit out, and then I say, okay, this is my target cost, right? Versus when I'm talking about the cost-based, what am I going to do? I'm going to take my cost, right? My cost of producing that unit, right? And then I'll say, okay, I want to get this much profit. And that's how you derive the price. So it's a different approach to pricing, okay? So let's look at the example. First is your target pricing. So when I'm setting up the price according to the target. Yes?
So what scenario would you use a target? What kind of business would you use a target? I'm just curious.
Well, that's what we're doing here, right? We're looking at our DVD production, and then we're talking about some factory here, okay? So what is my target pricing? So let's go back to the DVD production, okay? So why am I going to be using my target sales price? I'm producing my DVDs, okay? My target price, I derived it. I have some target price in mind, right? It can be set up by other companies as well, my competitors, my best comparatives. And then I'm going to say, this is the profit that I want to have. Maybe I'm a smaller company. I cannot allow myself to have a lot of profit yet. So I'm going to have this higher target cost, okay? Because I don't have that many machinery in place. So I'm going to use my target price here, okay? And I'm going to say my cost cannot be more than this, okay? So this is how I'm going to first say, okay, everyone in the market has this price, okay? So this is going to be my target price. I'm going to be 5 cents cheaper or whatever % cheaper, okay? So as a small business producing DVDs, I'm going to say, okay, all my costs cannot be higher than this, okay? I'm going to go from there setting up my process, my production, okay? So manager is going to sit down and say, this is our desired profit so that we grow. Okay, and that should be my cost. Yeah.
Basically, the target pricing would be the lowest amount possible that it will cost you to make the product.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's looking at basically like that, and then the cost-based pricing is the amount that you want to sell it for.
You can look at it, yes. It's a different approach to pricing, okay? First one is when you're looking first at the target price, okay? And the second one is when you're looking at what is it costing you to produce. Do you see how approaches are different? So first you're going to see what is the comparable price, and then try to make your cost, adjust your cost as much as possible so that it fits that schema. Do you understand it?
It just throws me off when they go, when you say minus side profit.
Why?
Why would you sell an item and subtract your profit to try to get a cost? Then you're just selling it at cost.
Oh, no. That's how you derive it. You don't do that. So you have a target price in mind. I want to sell this DVD for $15, okay? And I want my profit to be $5, okay? So I say that per DVD, I cannot spend more than $10 so that I'm still profitable, okay? And this is how I arrived. Why would I go? That was a brilliant example. All of my competitors are selling very similar DVD for $15. So if I'm putting that price for $14.95, I still want to make this much profit, and this is what my cost should be. Now versus the first case, you know that you're spending $12 per DVD, and you're saying, okay, I want my profit to be at least $5. So my DVD should be for sale at $17. Do you see it's just a different approach? Yes.
So like the target pricing would be used for a car, let's say, like does the price could fluctuate, like making a car with like set intervals, let's say, like you can't really the price is kind of set because like your flowers and so.
Okay.
Car like the parts you can kind of get cheaper parts.
You would be using for car what did you say you would be using? I think I would use cost-based.
I feel like market price would be more of a competitive scenario for like
Might be.
I let everything from electronic stores like Best Buy and Richard or Walmart, you have to look at their pricing and what their price is.
You see, your target price is also something that, you remember how we said my target price is what the customer is willing to pay, right? Yes. So it's just different perspectives on it. More questions? Okay. So we have an example here. So for full product costs, we want to consider all our production costs. That's our direct materials, direct labor, allocation, manufacturing overhead, same components as before. Okay? What are we going to do next? We want to add all of the non-manufacturing costs. Those are mainly your operating expenses, right? Again, your administrative part, your selling expenses, that's all of your non-manufacturing costs. Okay, so how am I going to determine my target cost and target profit? What am I going to do here? I'm taking my target sale price per Excel DVD, right? Same story, $10. We just said that. And then I'm saying that I want my profit to be at 20%. So what am I going to do? I'm going to subtract that profit that I want of $2. And I'm going to say that the target cost per that Excel DVD should not be more than $8. Clear? No? What is the question? Okay. Okay. Let's try more. So we have comparison to target cost and full cost. Let's see which one is which. So let's talk about these DVDs a little more. Maybe that will make clear. How do I meet the target, right? As a manager, I want to meet the target with when I'm assessing what my costs and what my prices should be for that product. Okay, so current cost for this product is not quite meeting my target costs, right? So let's see. My target sale price was at $10. I want my profit to be $2. So I'm saying the target cost per my DVD is $8. Okay?
Make it for those $8.
Yes. Yeah, that's a cost. Yes? But the problem is that my current total manufacturing cost per DVD is $7. And my non-manufacturing cost, I figured out, is $1.10. So what's happening here? My current full product cost per Excel DVD is what? $8.10. I'm off the target, right? So look at those two systems as tools, okay? Tools at how you want to determine your costs and prices and where you need to. So don't get into where exactly am I going to use it, more of which one is going to fit my business better. So here I see, okay, I have a problem. I need to either cut my costs, right? Or I need to redesign the product. Okay. So let's look here. So let's try to recompute this activity cost after we have the value engineering added to the system. So we thought, met with the team, thought about it, and we decided to redesign the whole setup process and therefore alter the cost per batch. Okay. So we estimate our savings at 160,000. Number of batches is going to be the same. So here's what we're going to do, right? We're going to say, okay, so we'll reduce our cost by 160,000. Do you see this 600 minus 160,000? Yeah? So my setup right now is only 440,000. I'm recalculating while implementing this value engineering, okay? So now I see that my batch is $11,000. Again, all of my costs divided by all of my batches, I found how much I spent per batch. Now, my actual quantity was what? 3 batches, right? We just did this. I hope you remember this. So my total allocated manufacturing cost is $33,000. Okay? Now my DVD burning, my assembly are other processes, and now I know that my total manufacturing overhead cost is $48,000. Who's lost? Okay, everything's clear? Okay. Do you have questions? All right. Yes? No? Okay, you do homework, and I'm here on Monday if you have questions. All right. So let's do next. You need to stop me and ask questions. Like, we're right on time. We're not behind the schedule. If you have a question, it's better to ask. All right. So let's look at the revised costs. Okay, we have the same story. We're still talking about the DVDs. We have costs that we're calculating. So what is ABC manufacturing overhead costs after we added this value engineering to the system? Let's look at this. So we have total manufacturing overhead cost, the new number, 48,000, right? We're still producing 100,000 units. And our manufacturing overhead cost per DVD with the value engineering is 48 cents. Okay? Now let's add this full product cost. Full product is what we did right here, right? Our full cost, how we calculate this. Current total manufacturing cost per DVD, non-manufacturing cost, and this is how you find current full product cost per DVD. So let's see what do we get here. So we have the same, right? We've calculated manufacturing overhead, 48 cents, great. Now what are we going to do next, right? This 48 cents is this. right? So we have total manufacturing cost per DVD after value engineering study. So we found it's 688. Now what are we going to do? We're going to add non-manufacturing costs, right? Do you remember the formula I just showed you 2 slides ago? So we're going to add this $10, and we're going to find that full product cost after this value engineering study is 7.98. Okay? So what does it mean to me? It means that it's less than my targeted price of targeted production cost, sorry, of $8, right? You remember that target cost of $8? I just calculated. It's $7.98. It costs me 2 cents less to produce. My other tip is if you read the book before you come, or ask me questions. I'm going pretty slow, so stop me. Okay, so now let's test what did we understand. So let's try this 18.5. We want to use ABC to compute our product cost per unit. Okay? So what you want to do, you see those question marks, indirect manufacturing cost per unit? We want to fill those in. Right? We want to do something with these numbers. First, we calculate the product cost per unit for products C and D. Sorry, that's your quiz. You're so lucky. Okay, so we'll start with this problem, and I hope after you at home read this, you're going to do better. But this is where we